just can't believe I'm going to start off a sports show with stupidity. I can promise you nothing this stupid on our podcast tonight. Sonny Houston argues that CBS firing Stephen Colbert is dismantling our Constitution. Sonny, let me give you an economics lesson here. CBS was losing $40 to $50 million a year on the Late Show, and Colbert was making $15 million a year. Now, if CBS, they're a business, they can do whatever they want, but they should have let the show go years ago. Todd, Wayne, that's Larry. This is ATL Prime Sports. How you guys doing today?
Well, I'm doing pretty well, but not quite as well as Mr. Scotty Scheffler. He is one step away from winning his Grand Slam, and I think it's going to happen on his 30th birthday in 2026. So the U.S. Open, if he can win that, then I guess he'll get to all of them, four of four. How about you, Larry? What's going on in your neck of the woods, man?
Man, it is wonderful up in my neck of the woods. Everybody's getting into the swing of things. School starts in a couple of weeks. All the kids are wide open in their extracurricular activities. The football is going on. The band camp and the summer days are going on.
Yeah.
And we just got our college football schedules and when we're going to be doing PA for both that and volleyball. So that's getting on the horizon. High school football is right around the corner. So, baby, it is pedal to the metal around these parts. But everybody's doing well, Wayne. Thank you for asking. TC, how you doing, my guy?
I'm doing great. You know what? We're going to have Dave Cohen on, the voice of Georgia State Sports, at about 15 minutes from now. David Walker, the Rebel Walk. Hopefully, Evie Van Pelt will join him. Evie was on a famous radio show, Paul Feinbaum's radio show in Alabama during SEC Media Days. Dave Cohen's on his way back from the Sun Belt Media Days, so this is going to be fun. What we're going to have here, we won't be all on screen. Some of us are going to be on phone. At least the three of us are on screen if your eyes can take it from wherever you are. But I like Larry's background. He looks like he's getting ready to go outside and swing a few at the Masters with that background back there, man.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's go ahead and start the show. Basically, our topic is today, currently, not historically, conference is better right now, the Big Ten or the SEC? We all know the answer historically is the SEC. But currently, and I know where Larry's going because he knows where I'm going, so I'm going to let him go first. Which one's better, my friend, right now?
Right now, toe to toe, school to school, the Big Ten has an edge. And the only reason to me is when they went to the West Coast and started acquiring those markets, very similar to what the ACC did in acquiring some of those markets as well. They took an air pump and blew it all into their revenue stream. Not only did you get the Oregons that are national contenders almost every year, but you got the USCs who are in there every other year or so. You turned around and you sprinkled those in, which are already normal powerhouses of Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, every now and again, Wisconsin. So you took all of those things and you made yourself a true powerhouse. And you did it by circumnavigating the entire country. Whereas the SEC, for the exception of Missouri and probably Oklahoma, all of those schools are in what you would consider the Southeast or the South. So the SEC still doing it on a regional scale is still benefiting them when it comes to producing title contenders. But where you're seeing it affect the grand scheme of things is with NIL and recruiting. And with college football now becoming minor league football, it has literally become pay me and I'll play you. If you give me the money, I'll go. I don't even care about I don't care about having a chance to win a title anymore. I want to go drive a Lamborghini while I'm in class. I want a $500,000 million check. Because think about this: as an 18, 19-year-old kid with $1 million in the bank and driving around campus in a Lamborghini.
I don't know how you could drive around campus in a Lamborghini. Those things are impossible to get out of second gear.
Man, you couldn't get me in or out of one with a shoehorn with some Crisco on it. But to be that as it may, it's really become who has the biggest booster stream, who has the biggest revenue that is at their disposal, who can entice these kids to come play for them for the money. You know,
Right.
those days are gone where, the old Bear Bryants can just tap on a ring. You want one of these, come play for Alabama.
Right.
Those days are gone now. We're in a totally different era of college football. That being said, so right now, long-winded answer, but right now, unfortunately, it's the Big Ten, and the SEC's got some catching up to do.
Well, that's interesting because you're thinking the same way I am, and Colin Cowherd said it too. The SEC has car dealerships. The Big Ten has glitz, glamour, and it's big cities with big money. He's right about that, but also the transfer portals about it. These kids in the South. I mean, you saw the Southeastern Conference. They're recruiting. They won the deal over the Big Ten this year. The problem is these kids also want to play right away. If they don't, go get it the next year and get the money along with it and then play right away. So, yeah, high school recruiting still matters, no question about it. But what matters the most? 3 words: follow the money. And the transfer portal has opened it up. And you're right, Larry, they don't care about the ring. They care about the bling, what they're driving, what could be on their ring, getting the money along the way. And the Big Ten has got a really good job of that. They're big money institutions. I mean, look at USC's in Los Angeles. Oregon has Nike. Michigan has the owner of the Dolphins, Stephen Ross. Ohio State has all the businesses in the state of Ohio because they're the only school in the Big Ten in that conference. Penn State, they run the state of Pennsylvania. I know Pitt has some of it, but no, they run Pennsylvania. Illinois, they run the state of Illinois. And the state of Illinois is underrated when it comes to high school football. So, I mean, all the Minneapolis is in Minnesota's in Minneapolis. I mean, all these UCLA's in Los Angeles. You see where I'm going. Washington's in Seattle. I think it's a huge, huge advantage, and that's what's leveled the playing field. That's why the Big Ten, to use the word of Danny Cannell when he went to Big Ten Media Days today, the Big Ten is dominated college football the last 2 years. They have the last 2 national champs in Michigan and Ohio State. And by the way, they have cleaned the SEC's clock in the non-conference season and in the bowl season. Your say, Wayne.
Well, I'm an Auburn fan, and so my heart wants to say that the SEC is best. But if you look at it empirically, the last 2 championships have come from the Big Ten. So I'd have to say, one way I'm going to say it's Big Ten, the other way I'm going to say it's SEC because I'm more of a fan than I am an analysis person.
Well, you know what, Larry? They're also saying the SEC also say we're top heavy. Now they changed the narrative to we're deeper. Well, as Eddie Murphy would say, you're so deep in the hole, you're going to have to climb out of it.
No, you're absolutely right. And to that narrative, if you go top 4 to top 4, what Alabama, Georgia, Texas, maybe who you want to put in that 4th spot, Tennessee.
My opinion.
Yeah, you take those 4 and you go Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Oregon. I'm probably taking the Big Ten over the SEC head to head in a tournament style battle. But even that, the Big Ten has cornered the 2 biggest markets in this country in the New York City market and in the Los Angeles market.
Even though
So
New York doesn't have a college football, but New Jersey does.
correct. So you know, you were about what? Maybe a 3 hour, maybe 4 hour drive from Happy Valley to New York City on a good day, maybe. I mean, I don't know the parameters of how far of a drive that is, but
You're about right.
it's not that far, So when you start looking at businesses and conglomerates and boosters, you were talking about the state of Michigan. Well, heck, that is the automotive capital of the world. You got money all over the place. You talk about Nike. You talk about Seattle and the market that it is up in the Northwest, probably the biggest market in the Northwest, with the exception of Atlanta, maybe New Orleans. You know, um, can't really say much about Texas, even though Austin is oil money, but
Yeah,
it only
Texas is
goes so
sad.
much because after you get to Dallas, it's its own entity. SMU is now ACC country. Houston, San Antonio area, not even inclusive in either one of those. So the Big Ten has done. They really played college football monopoly and putting hotels on places and getting all these properties
Right.
and saying, hey, this is what we're going to do. You want to play for us? We got the money. We can pay you. And in some cases, we can even play you early. But even while you're waiting to play, we can make sure you're walking around campus while you're going to class looking pretty.
That's true. That's true. And I'm sorry, Boardwalk and Park Place is St. Charles Place. If you don't know Monopoly, go check out the board. Do we have our guests, Wayne? It looks like we do. Do we have our guests online? It's almost time. I see caller. Yeah, do we have him here? Is Dave?
Is this
Is
Dave Walker or David Cohen I'm talking to?
Hi, David Walker. How y'all
All
doing
right,
today?
fantastic. David Walker of the Rebel Walk.
Sir, David Walker. Hey, thanks for joining us. Dave Cohen will be joining us shortly. I can't wait till you guys all talk because Old Miss plays Georgia State week 1 at Old Miss, and you know what? Poor Georgia State. I mean, they're ranked in a magazine 119, and then Old Miss is rated in the top 15. Georgia State is playing a brutal non-conference schedules. We're joined by Dave Cohen, the voice of Georgia State. You look at Georgia State's first 3 of their first 4 games: Ole Miss, Memphis, at Vanderbilt. Yes, they beat Vanderbilt last year, but poor Georgia State, they only returned 3 starters on offense, 5 on defense. And here they are. They're going to play Ole Miss. First, top 15 team in the country, David Walker, and then I'll let Dave Cohen's come in after you, and you guys can talk too because, well, you're going to meet in week 1, and David, that's a really tough way for Georgia State to go, but I'll give the Panthers a lot of credit. They're going to come out swinging with the best they got, even though they're going to be shorthanded. They have 15 kids out of the portal. 8 are junior college kids. So this is a definite new Georgia State 2025 team. David, what are the folks saying at Ole Miss about playing Georgia State in week 1?
Well, you
Because
got
they beat some SEC schools.
Yeah, well, you look at the Sun Belt overall. I mean, there have been some upsets from several of those teams. I mean, you don't have to go back very far to see where Appalachian State came into College Station at Kyle Field and took down A&M in a game that nobody would have thought they'd ever won. I had a friend of mine who lives near us, and that was his first game ever to go to, and A&M lost. I told him, I said, you may not want to go to any more games, because Appalachian State took it to them. So, you're not looking for the same thing with Georgia State at Ole Miss. I know Georgia State's gotten Memphis. They may be looking ahead to Memphis, when they're playing Ole Miss. We don't know. Memphis is coming in there in the second game I saw on their schedule. And, Georgia State just had a real rough year. What were they? I think 1-7 last year in the Sun Belt Conference. And, didn't give up that many points, just couldn't score a whole lot of points from what I could tell. So everybody who knows anything about football is putting it about 49-14, Ole Miss. So, heck, keep it that close. And, you come away with some video on everybody and you have a great college game day experience. And move on to Memphis.
That's true. And yeah, I wore a Memphis hat for Wayne tonight. Dave Cohen, thanks for joining us, the voice of Georgia State University. I mentioned the schedule. I mentioned the returning amount of players. I mentioned a couple other additional things, Dave. And boy, I tell you what, you just got back from Media Day. I know you're on your way back to Atlanta, opening up at Ole Miss. That really is about as tough as it gets.
Sure does, but it's a guarantee game. So, somewhere that night, Georgia State will be leaving with a check somewhere north of $1 million. And that's the trickle-down effect from Power 4 to Group of 5, or now Group of 6 college football. We all know that finances play a role in that. The Vanderbilt game, which is game number 4 for us. Now, that was a home-and-home. You remember we beat Vanderbilt last year. Yep. At Center Park Credit Union Stadium in Atlanta. But, that's one of the areas that head coach Del McGee touched on earlier today in New Orleans at Media Day was just the challenge of the schedule in the first 4 games with 2 SEC road games. Memphis, who I think won 11 games last year, and then the Racers of Murray State. That one better be penciled in as a W based on those first 4 ball games. But David and Todd, and it's not that I disagree. I guess what has kind of changed college football a little bit is, and we've talked about it ad nauseum, was the transfer portal and the ability to pay players. I think that's why Vanderbilt. I'm not saying Vanderbilt's going to shoot up the SEC standings, but Vanderbilt, if they've got one thing, they've got money, they've got the financial backing, and so. I think that we're going to see them incrementally get better and better as they're able to attract and pay and bring in better, talent. But at the G5 level, what you've got, you guys know this, Georgia State, right there with everybody else is participating. The Power 4 conferences in many instances, because they've got the finances, are going to attract the best players out of the G5 or the G6. But on the way down, the G5 or G5 or G6 programs are going to end up getting players that were originally recruited to play at the SEC or the Big 10 or the Big 12 or the ACC level. They get there, they were recruited over, playing time was not what they thought it would be, and now they are looking for a new opportunity. And certainly Georgia State and head coach Del McGee, who was a fantastic recruiter, having spent the previous 8 seasons over in Athens at Georgia recruiting some of the top talent in the country, his name alone and his recruiting history has certainly, caught the attention of a lot of Power 4 kids that are out there that are in that situation that I mentioned. They went Power 4, but the experience has not been what they thought it was. So I think you're going to see, and I'm not saying it'll be Georgia State this year. We were 3-9 last year, and as David said, we had 1 win in Sun Belt Conference play on the road at Texas State last year. But I do think at the G6 level, as some of that talent from the Power 4 trickles down, it's certainly going to be interesting to see how it affects some of the G6 better programs. And you mentioned Appalachian State, you mentioned a James Madison, you mentioned a Marshall in our league, and we're going to see this season and the next season or two, as some of that talent makes its way down to the G6, how that benefits a lot of G6 programs.
Dave Cohen, thank you as always for joining us. Talk about this before I pass it on to Mr. Walker here. How big a get was Branson Robinson for Georgia State?
Well, that's a great example. He was originally recruited by Del McGee when Coach McGee was still the running backs coach over in Athens at UGA. That's exactly the situation that I was talking about. Now, I've never met Branson Robinson yet. I'm sure I will in the coming days, but he's a great example of a kid who was recruited at a high major level. We're talking about the Georgia Bulldogs here. Put up some decent numbers, but battled injuries, and eventually started to fall in the depth chart. Well, he fell enough in the depth chart that he recognized that maybe he should look elsewhere for an opportunity to get on the field. So we're talking about a running back, an SEC caliber running back, now leading what is a loaded running back room for Georgia State. They've got a transfer from South Carolina, Jordan Simmons, who transferred from Ole Miss, although he did not play at Ole Miss. But prior to that, played at Michigan State and at Akron and put up some pretty decent numbers. But Branson Robinson right now is kind of the beacon in the running back room of a Power 4 kid who, for whatever reason, didn't get the level of playing time that he thought that he would get at Georgia, and started to look elsewhere. And who's over in Atlanta, Georgia, but the running backs coach at Georgia who recruited him at the time, who's now the head coach at Georgia State. I think I'm going to go ahead and take my game to Atlanta, Georgia, Center Park Credit Union Stadium, and see what I can do in blue and white.
Absolutely. We are being joined by the voice of the Georgia State Panthers, Dave Cohen, and Mr. David Walker himself from the Rebel Walk, talking all things Ole Miss Rebels. David Walker, question for you. I know Jackson Dart has solidified himself in his career there in Oxford. His absence is now looking to be replaced. Lane Kiffin's got a lot in his toolbox to work with. Where do you see Ole Miss shaping up in the SEC standings?
They could win it all. I mean, there's no question about that. I think right now they're just under the radar because they had such a great defense last year. And, of course, had a third-year starter coming back at quarterback who really did an excellent job. I mean, they lost 3 games by a total of 13 points. I mean, that's about as heartbreaking as it gets. And a couple of those, they were leading until the very end. So what Kiffin has done at Ole Miss has brought a winning expectation. And he has built a culture that a lot of people are wanting to be a part of at this time. You've won double digits 3 of the last 4 years. Won bowl games. You've had back-to-back 10-win seasons for the first time since 1959 and 1960. It's just and he's done it so quickly. I mean, when he was at Florida Atlantic, they were 3-9 3 years in a row before he got there. His first year there, they went 11-3. And then 2 years later, they went 11-3 again. And that's when he came to Ole Miss. And, Florida Atlantic was after his Alabama experience, which was nothing but excellent. He took Jay Coker, who was a first-year starter and won a national championship. And then you go back to Southern Cal with Matt Barkley and Matt Leonard and, Carson Palmer and those guys, the people that he had a chance to coach, the athletes that he had a chance to be around, and the coaches that he was associated with. You can't beat that heritage that he had. And on his dad, Monty Kiffin. I played against Monty Kiffin when he went to Arkansas from North Carolina State with Lou Holtz. And, we knew right then that, they were going places. They took over for Frank Burroughs, and, they had a team and ended up going to Notre Dame, of course, and winning it all there. But they had some great teams while they were at Arkansas. So Norm Chow was the offensive coordinator. Norm Chow is a legend. I don't know if there's a bigger legend for offensive assistant coaches. He had all the quarterbacks at Brigham Young University. Had Todd Detmer, who won a Heisman Trophy. And whenever he came to Southern Cal's offensive coordinator, it just continued. And now they didn't even have the offense, the scheme that what we see today. You know, they had Norm Chow had them primarily, in the one back. The quarterback never ran. You know, you look at Leonard and you look at Carson Palmer, and you look at Matt Barkley, they may run 3 or 4 times a game for negative 15 yards. You know, they had no running attack. And so I think what you've seen develop over the last 6, 7 years with Lane is incorporating a running game in with the quarterback. And to do that, you have to go out and you got to get mobile people. And, he certainly had that. Matt Corral, I mean, he'd run 600-700 yards a season. You know, he was an outstanding quarterback. And then you have Jackson Dart, who does essentially the same. And then you have all the RPOs and all the schemes and all the great receivers that great quarterbacks, you know, you can surround them with. And, I mean, he's looking at his 3rd year now with a 3rd-year quarterback in the system. It's going to be a first year to start. But he won 11 games with the first-year starter at Florida Atlantic, won national championship with the first-year starter at Alabama. So I don't think we're too concerned about Austin Simmons. Austin Simmons is already top 15 in the Heisman football odds preseason. I mean, and pretty well sight unseen. So, I mean, there's so much to look forward to. Receiver room got refilled. Running back room will be better than it's ever been. Defensive line, linebackers, secondary, you know, they're all going to be fabulous. Secondary may not be as strong as it has been. Did lose some people there. Lost some good linebackers. But defensively and offensively, going to be really, really strong. So they also have a really strong schedule. I mean, they've got 8 home games. And
yeah,
they got
David,
Gibbs on the road and Oklahoma on the road.
Yeah, David, I saw the gauntlet. They'll play LSU at home against Washington State, at Georgia, at Oklahoma, South Carolina. Get a break with the Citadel, then Florida. So you're right. It's going to be, you know, once they get in the meat of that schedule. But, you know, I want you guys to ask each other's questions. Dave, you could ask David a question, and David, you could ask Dave a question since Georgia State is hooking up with Ole Miss in week 1. What would you guys ask each other? Go ahead, David. Ask Dave Cohen a question.
I guess I would want to know how many returning Georgia State have, and what would their strengths be on offense.
What was the last part of that question, please?
What on offense?
What's your strength on offense, offensively? Running game, quarterback, receivers.
Well, coming out of the spring game, and Coach McGee announced this earlier today at Media Day in New Orleans, that right now Christian Veyer, who started the season as our starting quarterback last year, previously playing at Pitt and prior to that Penn State, that right now heading into fall camp later this month, he is the number 1 quarterback, and number 2 is up for grabs between former Texas Tech and West Georgia quarterback Cameron Brown and former Texas State quarterback P.J. Hatter. Again, a loaded running back room. Fortunately, we were able to hold on to one of the top receivers in the Sun Belt Conference, and he was with us in New Orleans the last 2 days, and that's Ted Hurst. 9 touchdown receptions, just under 1,000 yards receiving. And so we're fortunate that we're able to hold on to him and not lose him, to the transfer portal. Loaded at receiver as well. I know he likes, Coach McGee really likes the receiver room, likes his quarterbacks, and definitely loves the depth that we have at running back. Kind of got away from the running game last year. Last year's starting running back, Freddie Brock, transferred out, and he's at Oklahoma State. So you would assume that Branson Robinson would be the number 1, but that's why fall practice will take place. And then on the defensive side of the football, lost a lot of bodies. Henry Bryant, who was with us at Media Day, will kind of anchor up front on that D-line, but they did bring in a load of talent out of the transfer portal. The number one number that was a little concerning last year, and I underline concerning, was the fact that at the end of the day, a 3-9 season, Georgia State was allowing, I think, on average, 34 or 35 points a ball game. And, if you're going to have success, not just non-conference against the Ole Misses and the Memphises and the Vanderbilts, but more importantly against the competition that we will face week in and week out in the Sun Belt Conference, got to bring that points allowed number way, way down. So I know that they've brought in some transfers, got to replace Kevin Swint, who's trying to make an NFL roster. He had transferred in previously after playing at Clemson. And then they've got some bodies to replace at corners and safeties. So there'll be a number of new faces in the backfield, in the middle, and along that front line, along with Henry Bryant. But got to get that points allowed number down. If it's in the 30s again this year, we're in trouble.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I hear you.
Dave, what do you want to ask David Walker there about Ole Miss?
Where's he going to be set up in the Grove so I can stop by on my way up to the radio booth?
That's
oh,
awesome.
man, I appreciate that. Absolutely.
That's where all the action
Yeah.
takes place. I've been to Oxford a couple of times with Georgia State basketball over the years, but this will be my first trip there for football.
Well, I tell you what, it's going to be just an amazing time for you. The Grove is just such a outstanding place, and we were fortunate. My first ever game at the Grove was when Blake Sims and Lane Kiffin and Alabama came in, and everybody, of course, expected Alabama to win, but Ole Miss took them down, and that was just an incredible night. They did take the goalpost down. I mean, as they should have, and they took it all the way downtown Oxford. So that was my first ever game, and the people there were just so friendly and so nice, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful place. I mean, the way they have everything set up with their tents and just a ton of people, and everybody dressed very nice and all that kind of stuff, and just lots of smiles, lots of laughs, and lots of hotty toddies, and it's going to be quite the experience for you, Dave. You're going to enjoy the heck out of it, I assure you.
You know what, David?
I may have to go and purchase a seersucker suit so I can kind of fit in with the crowd.
Yeah, there you go. That'll work.
You know what, David? You ought to tell Dave about Evie because she was on with Paul Feinbaum on his radio show in Alabama. He'll have to meet her too.
Oh, well, Evie runs the show. Yeah, there's no doubt about that, Todd. She started this the Rebel Walk 13 years ago. She's the only woman who's ever started a school specific sports website. And talking about going up to the radio place, where you'll be sitting. I mean, you got to think about Evelyn Van Pelt walking into the press box for her first game at Ole Miss in 2013, and all the gentlemen in there turning their heads saying, "Who we got here?" But nobody else has ever done it. Nobody else in the history of college football has ever just opened up her own sports website, and now she's into her 13th year with it. The head women's basketball coach, Coach Yo, called her one day after they'd made the Sweet 16 and asked her, "Can you be in Mississippi tomorrow? I want you on our plane. I want you going up there with us." And she drove all night, stayed at her daughter's in Jackson, got up at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and made that plane flight when they went up to Washington for their Sweet 16. So a lot of headway, and she's got tons, mom and dad's phone numbers on her cell phone, and talks to them all the time, either by text or personally. All the players, it's just different. And if you spend any time with the Rebel Walks, you're going to see I think, a compassion and an attitude there that you just don't see with the big corporate guys. And she writes probably 85% of the articles that are on there, but she also gives students the opportunity to do internships with her, which helps, if they're in journalism or English or whatever may be the case. If they want to go into sports media, then she's given many, many, many Ole Miss students that opportunity. So, yeah, sort of an institution, I would say, at Ole Miss is Ole Miss Edie. So if you get the chance, Dave, I know she'd love to meet you that opening game.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Like I said, this will be my first trip there for football, and looking forward to the entire experience. Hope we play well. Hope nobody gets hurt, and then we can turn our attention to Memphis. But, first up is a trip to Oxford, Mississippi, and I'm looking forward to it.
Well, everybody except your running back who came from Ole Miss is probably going to be there for maybe the first time, so that's going to be a lot of fun for them.
Yeah, Jordan Simmons, who transferred to Georgia State.
Right.
I guess he was at Ole Miss for spring practice, but he's never played at Ole Miss.
Right. Yeah. Gotcha.
But again, previously played at Michigan State and Akron, put up decent numbers, and now we'll have an opportunity to be an impact player, here with us at Georgia State.
That's fantastic. I wish him the best. It's amazing how these players are going from 4 to 5 universities to play football, isn't it? I mean, we couldn't get out of our first one. If you wanted to transfer for whatever reason, you had to sit out a year. And sitting out a year doesn't mean sitting out a year. It means sitting out 21 months. Because you didn't get to step on the field under the lights for 21 months. You transfer in December, well, you don't play again until the following September. A year later after that. So the way things have changed a little bit, and I heard y'all talking earlier about NIL and transfer portal and all that kind of stuff. It's just truly amazing. And, the players right now have the power, and I think the power began during the COVID year because everybody found out all of a sudden that you couldn't play football without players. And so and that empowered the players a little bit. And then, the courts came around and, they started, making some player-friendly decisions. And now look where we are. I mean, I don't even know what these players are making anymore. And I heard y'all talking about the Lamborghinis earlier, but it's really incredible. And, everybody may have their hand out, but there's still some kids out there who want to play football and want to go to the next level.
David, just think about this. Arch Manning's been the backup quarterback at Texas for the last 2 years, and he's making, $2-3 million a year. That's a pretty good gig. And now that he's starting, that's interesting. I wanted to get the two of you together. Of course, I met each one of you in person. David and I, met at the Ole Miss Louisville game down in the Dome. And then, of course, I met Dave at Georgia.
Kiffin wasn't even there. Remember, he had COVID. He had to stay home.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. And we were sitting all by ourselves in the section of the end zone. And then I met Dave.
Exactly.
I met him at Georgia State's practice and have got to know him. And without Dave, I wouldn't be doing play-by-play in college basketball because he's the one that set me up with the Clayton State job. And I got to do my first game when as a Jacksonville University announcer this year when they went and played Athens courtside, and I've done Clayton State when they played Georgia Tech. Yeah, men's and women's courtside at Georgia Tech. So if it wasn't for Dave, I wouldn't have been able to do that. And I can't thank him enough. And then David, when I met you, I just couldn't meet a nicer person. And when I saw this on the schedule, I had to get the two of you on at the same time. And I think you're all going to enjoy each other when you meet briefly.
I certainly appreciate that, Todd. There's no doubt. That's going to be a fun one. Can't wait.
It is. Well, I have a feeling that Ole Miss is going to have more fun than Georgia State. But as Dave Cohen would say, we're coming back with a check, and we're going to get better. And you know what? Georgia State has beaten already. They've won at Tennessee. They've beaten Vanderbilt. They've turned around in the short period of time that they've been a football program. They have opened up some eyes. And as Larry would say, the money's going to hopefully flow in the city of Atlanta for Georgia State. And hopefully they'll continue to get better. And I believe that Dell McGee's the right guy to lead Georgia State. And they're going to get good. It may not be this year or whatever, but they had a heck of a recruiting class this year. And Dave can certainly tell us about that. They're going to be good quick in the future. Dave, your thoughts?
Well, we will, and you're right. If Dell McGee is known for one thing, it's recruiting. We were talking at dinner last night in New Orleans. I said, I honestly think, and I've only known him a little over a year, I said, I think you enjoy recruiting more than you actually enjoy the game day coaching. And he laughed and said, no, I enjoy them both, but I think he enjoys the challenge of selling the program to prospective student athletes and their parents, and of course, doing a sales job for the University of Georgia and doing one for Georgia State. There's a lot of differences there, to say the least. But, one thing he emphasized today is that Georgia State, from a recruiting standpoint, will not be a come one, come all, out of the transfer portal type situation. He still feels and sees the importance of recruiting the high school student. And we all know that Georgia is one of the 4 or 5 best states for high school football, and it's a fertile ground for college football coaches to fly in and fly out and take some pretty good talent out of the state. So what Georgia State's trying to do, just like Georgia Southern and Kennesaw State, is keep some of the homegrown talent in state. And I think Dell McGee is the guy that can do that. So it'll be a combination of portal kids, junior college kids, and high school kids. I don't think it will weigh heavily in the direction of any one of those 3 in particular, but I think he would like to have a pretty good balance across the board when building this roster. And again, this is only the 16th season, 1-6 for Georgia State football.
That's incredible.
A lot has been accomplished, but there's still a long way to go. There's a challenge in the Sun Belt to being the only large market school in the league from a fan base standpoint. And so that's one of the challenges that we face. And then knowing that week in and week out that on the G5 level that the Sun Belt's going to show some of the best football in the country. It was announced in New Orleans that once again James Madison is the preseason favorite in the Sun Belt East. They're followed closely by Georgia Southern. And then over in the West, the Ragin' Cajuns of Louisiana, followed by Texas State. Louisiana, the preseason favorite, followed closely by Texas State. Texas State is one of those schools. They've already announced that they're going to be leaving the Sun Belt at the end of the 25 season.
Yes.
And they are going to go to the Pac-12. And
Yep.
the Sun Belt has already announced that Louisiana Tech will take their spot to keep the Sun Belt at 14 schools. So there's been a lot going on during the off season for Keith Gill, the commissioner of the Sun Belt Conference, and keeping the league headed in the right direction. And he's, I think, one of the top commissioners in college athletics, and doing a fine job navigating the Sun Belt Conference from where it was when he took over to where it is today, which is, by the way, the 25th season of college football in the Sun Belt Conference this year.
Gentlemen, we're out of time. Thanks so much. I'm gonna get you guys each other's phone number so you can communicate when you come over there, Dave, to Ole Miss, so you guys can all meet. I want to thank you for coming on. We'll have each of you come on before the opener separately, talk about your team a little more in depth. It's just around the corner. And gentlemen, thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming on today. And I know Larry and Wayne also love this. We talked about it. JJ couldn't make it at the last minute tonight. He's missing out, but I guarantee he's going to check it out. Thank you for coming on, both of you. I really appreciate it.
You bet, Todd. Thank you, guys. Great visiting with you.
Oh,
Yep.
great.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
Take care. Drive safely back to Atlanta, please. All right.
I'm trying.
David.
I'm on 65 North right now.
All right.
Godspeed to you. Dave Cohen, the voice of Georgia State Panthers, and David Walker of the Rebel Walk. Thank you for joining us as always. And gentlemen, I appreciate it. We're kind of running out of time there. So, Wayne, do we have any more time for one more topic?
I think we're going to discuss this SEC Big Ten thing more, unless you've got something you'd rather talk about.
I can do it for a minute, and yeah, we can do it for a couple minutes as long as you you don't mind doing it on the topic. Do we have time for that too?
Yeah, I mean, you can. I've got a 2-hour slot for this show.
Okay,
so.
well then, good. We got time. All right. Well, go ahead. You go ahead and lead this one, Wayne. Continuing on with the topic, we didn't have time to talk to everyone else about her. We would have. Go ahead. What are your thoughts more on it, though, in depth?
Are you talking about the Big Ten SEC?
Yeah, Big Ten SEC. Yeah, the continue.
Well,
yep, we're still on it. Yep.
I'm not going to sit here and try to say which conference is best, which one's worst, which one has an advantage, which one has a disadvantage, because everybody's got their favorite teams that they're going to watch. And really the only people that I would think would have a care in the world over which conference, was technically better or historically better would be people who don't have a favorite team.
Well, that's true. Larry, you got anything to add on this? I mean, I just think it's a fascinating subject because the SEC, they're going to find a way, and it might be this year. They're tired of hearing the Big Ten's better than them at the moment.
Well, to the SEC, well, to everybody, it comes down to wins and losses, but it's the relevancy of your program. And David Walker talked about it a little bit in his synopsis about Ole Miss. The SEC traditionally, before the additions of Texas and Oklahoma, was a very top-heavy program, and unfortunately, we haven't really seen Florida play Florida football. We haven't seen Tennessee play Tennessee football. Heck, and I'm sorry, Wayne, but we haven't seen Auburn play Auburn football.
Well, I got to stop you 1 second, Larry. Tennessee's won double digits the last 3 seasons in a row. Now that they expanded the conference in Texas A&M, and of course Oklahoma, Missouri have came in. To me, it's making it much more depth because there's more teams. But go ahead on that thought.
No, you're absolutely right. We're to the old school before then, when the Big 12 schools was Big 12 schools, with the Texases, Oklahomas, Oklahoma States, and all those yada yada yada. You could just about guarantee in the East it was going to be a 4-way go between Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, and South Carolina. In the West, you knew it was going to be Alabama, Ole Miss, Auburn, and every now and again Arkansas. Big Ten country, historically, same principle. Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, and every now and again sprinkled in Michigan State, Iowa, or even Wisconsin.
Yeah.
You're just going to get them sprinkled in every now and again. With this expansion, come on. You're going to have a big market to play in. You're going to be in front of millions and millions of viewers every week. If we want you to come to our school and your parents can't physically be there to watch you play, they are going to be on ABC, NBC, ESPN 1, 2, or 3, the ACC network, SEC network, the Big Ten network. They're going to be eyes available to see you. So all it is doing is creating this money pipeline that is being able to, hey, you want to be a part of this? You got boosters, conglomerates. Look at what we're doing. Our footprint and blueprint stretches from Los Angeles to Happy Valley. I guess as far as East Coast places they've got.
Rutgers.
For Rutgers, yeah.
New York City, just outside.
Yep. So that's attractive to people who want to put money, because nobody who has money is just going to waste money without the opportunity for it to continue to make money. And
from
unfortunately,
Wall Street to Hollywood.
Yeah, absolutely. It literally is. And so take a look back for us as fans. We're the ones that I don't necessarily want to call it the benefactors, but we're the ones that are going to have to pay the price for it all because now these streaming services are going to go up. You know, cable prices are going up, internet prices are going up to be able to see this because you're just not going to pay people for free. That money's got to come from somewhere. And to walk into a 17-year-old kid's house with their parents and look them in the eye and tell them, hey, if you come play for us, we can give you this. We can give you this. We have this amount of money allocated. And knowing that there's a probably 70% chance that if they don't get on the field in year one, that you just gave them that money and they're going to skedaddle without any penalty whatsoever. It is the constant merry-go-round of college football free agency. And that's what is really creating the disconnect and the dissection from having people support the teams anymore because you know you used to could get a kid and you knew they were going to be there for at least 3 years. Now you get a kid and you're lucky if he's there the following season.
Yeah.
You know, so
It's true.
because of that, now it's difficult for fans to get even more engaged. Even though you know Wayne's going to put on the Memphis hat because he blue born and bred. You know that's what he's going to do. He's going to support Tiger Nation. Come what may, he's going to support them.
Right.
Okay. Everybody on the dadgum team could hit the portal tomorrow, and the whole new set of players that came and refill those positions, Wayne is still going to put on the hat because he's invested.
Yeah.
This
He
new
made me.
generation.
He sent me a hat, so I put it on today for him. So you know what? I look at the SEC, and you know we sit there saying the Big Ten's better and all this and that. Even if they are, they're not far behind. Texas with the oil money, Oklahoma with Mateer at quarterback, Texas with Manning. You've got A&M. Just to me, the SEC, they're going to find a way, and their best way is high school recruiting, and then to be able to keep them once they get in their institution and their school and go from there. Georgia's going to recruit well. Alabama's going to recruit well. What the top 20 recruiting, most of them are in the SEC when it's done and ranked. So that is a huge advantage for the Southeastern Conference to continue to recruit well out of high school. They're going to recruit, except for Michigan, Ohio State, and maybe Oregon, maybe Penn State, but it doesn't matter. Their depth in recruiting in high school is better than the Big Ten. It just is. They have a better recruiting ground. We mentioned it. Texas, Florida, Georgia, 3 of the top 4. California's in there. That's where the bread and butter is. Once they get them in, they got to find a way to keep them in. And with capital gains, you're going to see it. You're going to see companies investing. The oil money in Texas is huge. Now, they're going to figure out a way, and then they're just going to have to keep topping each other for the money. And we'll see how it works out. But it's an interesting topic. It really is. Because believe me, the SEC, their eyes are open, and they're not happy the Big Ten has won. A team has won the last 2 titles, nor are they happy for getting beaten bowl season. So, and we're going to find out week 1. Texas go right back to the shoe where Ohio State beat them in the semifinal. Allison, okay, anybody says that is a road game for Ohio State. You're playing in Texas's backyard. So we're going to find out. And no SEC team has played in the national title game since Georgia played in it. When they beat the living tar out of TCU. Was that? No, yeah, TCU, because they beat Alabama in 21. Yeah, and then TCU in 22. You guys got anything to add? Because I'm pretty good with this. I got another topic, and I got JJ's hair standing up on the phone today. I told him this. I know all the people are going to freak out with the Braves. I truly think if you get the right deal, trade Ronald Acuna in a New York Rutgers minute. And here's because can't stay on field. Only played 150 plus games in 2 seasons. I knew his first season he played 118, but he's only played 50 this year, 49 before that, the year he had his MVP. He only played in 46 games of 60 in the COVID year. He's missing way too much time due to injuries. I know his contract's cheap, but you already see the stolen base game is gone. He's not running. If you can get a great deal for Acuna and revamp this ball club, because I think they need help at second, short, field, as center field. They don't need help at DH, catcher. Actually, the catcher they're probably going to trade the catcher. They're set at first. They're set at third. They're set in right field, even if they don't trade Acuna, obviously, which I don't think they will. I'm just throwing it out there. And then the rotation. I'm sorry, you're going to have Chris Sale come back next year with that contract. I mean, can you trade him? It's going to be hard. I mean, Schwellenbach is injured. Lopez is injured. We all knew this was coming. They had this great year last year. Can you really count? I mean, and they need help in the bullpen with Iglesias as a closer. I mean, this is a team that's going to be revamped. How do you revamp? You got to trade something, get something. And there's a team out there like the Yankees, the Mets, the Cubs, the Dodgers. You don't think they'd like to get their hands on Ronald Acuna? They have the depth and wherewithal to do it. Your thoughts, Larry?
I see where you're coming from.
I lost my mind.
I
JJ
don't
thinks I've
necessarily,
lost my mind.
I don't necessarily think you've lost your mind, because we all can look through just the past 30, maybe even 40 years of baseball history and see mega trades with people who were thought to be superstars, that the team that traded away said superstar got a haul back enough to replenish their minor league system to be able to get back in the position of being competitive. And just a few years later, I mean, Houston comes to mind literally right off the top of my head. You know, they had to get rid of King Caminiti. They had to let Bagwell walk. They had to let all of those in those early 2000s teams walk so that they could rebuild their minor league system and get the results of the Jose Altuve's and the Jordan Alvarez's. You know, it's not far-fetched, but here's what my determining factor is going to be. You're going to probably have to pay him, if not next season, the season after.
He's good for 2 years after this year.
Correct.
Are you going to want to pay him that when he's 30 and he's had the injury history? Because I can say this, Larry and Wayne, if he doesn't play 145 plus games the next 2 seasons, there's no way in bells they're going to sign him to an extension. They'll let him walk like they've let Freeman and Freed and whoever else in the organization.
Yeah, and it's similar to what Dansby was looking at too, you know, and
right
to that point, and you just proved it. That number, knowing what Juan Soto just got from the Mets,
right,
that check is probably going to start with a 50 plus million a year or 60 million a year baseline. And when you got as many holes as the Braves have now, granted, the Braves have got a few pitchers in the minor leagues who are on the verge. They're not there yet, but
who is that?
They've got a few pitchers on the verge that could really, really do something. Like Didi Fuentes, I know we've saw him in the majors, but he's 19. He's not ready to be a major league pitcher yet. You know, okay. I think the career trajectory arc for Hurston Waldrop was to be a frontline starter, but for me, I think he is exactly what you need to be a bullpen reliever, and I think he would have a long career if he would go that route instead of trying to be a starter. But you mentioned it earlier. If you'd have told us at the beginning of this season that you would have 5 out of the 6 pitchers that you'd have pegged in your starting rotation to all go down with significant injuries, you would have one coming back off of what I call Tommy John B surgery and won't really get ramped up into a routine till realistically early June. Nobody, that's not a playoff team. You know, I mean, Grant Holmes has had to look like
he's
the second
well.
coming. Yeah, he's had to literally look like the second coming of Tom Glavine and be an innings eater so that this pitching staff just doesn't look like it's a minor league staff on a major league team. So I don't think you've lost your mind by saying that Acuna could be traded. I think you've got to
I know.
get
I didn't say
Ozzie.
he could. I said, would you trade him if you were the GM? I would try to trade him, but JJ would tell me, you know what he'd tell me? Todd, you can't trade the top 5 player in baseball, arguably. Well,
Uh,
yeah, you can. Herschel Walker got traded from the Dallas Cowboys to the Vikings, and that propelled Dallas to build their dynasty and win a Super Bowl 3 times.
yep, you're absolutely right. I just think if Ozzie Albies, which he's been coming around the corner since the All-Star break, if he and Michael Harris II could ever just figure out to get to the number on the back of the card, they ain't got to be superstars or world beaters. Just get to the number that's on the back of your baseball card again, because nobody foreseen that kind of drop out of them two. Looking at the way Drake Baldwin, the rookie catcher,
He's a stud.
he is a stud, and I hate to say it for Marcelo Ozuna, but it's kind of the writings on the wall, you know.
See ya.
And I think that's probably where the first thing is. But the problem with what Alex
You get a
Anthopoulos has done,
prospect for him.
well, you probably could, but working in Rome and seeing these young kids work themselves up, Atlanta's minor league system, they really don't have any big time hitters. They've got a lot of pitchers that are on the verge of being major league quality starters. I mean, look at AJ Smith-Shawver, who was having a wonderful season before he went down with injury. Saw him come up through just in the last 3 years. The pitching is there, but they have hardly any hitting whatsoever. Most of their hitters in the minor leagues are anywhere between $180 to 270, 280. So, and that's not head turning when you got the pitchers that are doing like what Paul Skeens is doing in Pittsburgh, just coming off of what his second, maybe third year campaign. So
Second year.
yeah,
And killing it.
and
He
killing it.
swept the Tigers.
Yeah, I know you was. I even told one of my buddies. I said I got a buddy I do a podcast with who's probably pounding sand right now because of what's going on with Detroit. But
He lost 9 out of 10 by Texas. Speaking of an ass kicking, Texas is kicking ass, is Wayne's team. They're about ready to get in the wild card race. They're in it now. Guess who they get this week?
Yep.
They're going to kick their ass too.
Well, I don't know if I'm so much looking forward to that matchup as I am looking forward to seeing Texas on TV, because for some reason our market, whenever Texas is on national TV, they always black it out or something, and I've never
Must be
figured
doing
that out.
something to piss you off.
Maybe. But I'll get to see them when they play Atlanta, so that'll be cool to watch.
Yeah, I mean, Texas is all of a sudden a contender, and they're a team that's probably going to
listen,
make.
don't mess up their mojo too much. They just got back to over 500.
I apologize. You know what? I got a cute story I can tell you guys. I do a baseball podcast on my Facebook account. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It's with a former player, Warren Brewster, who won the World Series for the Phillies in 1980.
Yeah.
He played with Pete Rose, Mike Schmidt, Larry Boa, Boone, McBride, Greg Lazinski. I bet, Larry, you know the club. You're right around my age. So, and then he has a teammate that I've had on the podcast with him, Randy Lurch, right? He wrote a book, God is in the Bullpen. Dang it, it's over there. I'd grab it. Randy Lurch could hit as a pitcher. He could hit. I mean, Warren and him are tight. They talk about it. I mean, Randy could hit. Guess what? Randy and Shohei Ohtani have something in common. It happened yesterday. Ohtani gave up a home run in the first inning to the Twins, and then he hit one that hadn't landed yet, opposite way. Well, the last pitcher to give up a home run and hit a home run was Randy Lurch in May of 1979. I want to say the date is 17th. So what did I do? I texted Warren, who's out in Hawaii right now. I texted um, texted Randy, who's in California. 3 hours from him. He's 3 hours and I'm 6 from the other one. So I'm like, okay, what's time of the day I can do this? So I did it at 9:00 at night. So it was 6 and then 3 for him. And they just way between the three of us. And it was so cool when I sent it. They didn't know it. And Warren follows Major League Baseball really well. We've had some good people on. We've had the Carries. We've had Carrie's kids on the podcast. So it's really cool. And I thought that was cute, and I thought I'd share it with you.
That's good stuff, TC. That was good stuff.
Now you're still how much more does Rome have left in the season?
They've got till the end of August.
Will they make the playoffs?
Potentially they can make the second half. They didn't qualify in the first half, but they're in the second half standings. So they have the ability to, but we'll see. This trip in the Hudson Valley, they're in New York this week. So we'll see after this week, because Hudson Valley is a real good team. So we'll see after this week if that standing is still
How far are they out? How far are they out of the playoffs?
3.5 games.
Oh, that's and how many games are left?
No.
30?
30, 40, somewhere around in there.
And do you have a home game tomorrow?
No. We're out this whole week. We don't have to be back at home until next Tuesday against Greensboro.
Yeah, okay. Next Tuesday against Greensboro. I got to come up there and see you do this one time. And, SIAC football is coming around the corner. We'll have that. That's going to be fun. That conference is underrated at the Division II level. We'll have some folks on. I'm gonna work diligently to try to come on. It's so tough. I'm usually gone in the evenings a lot in the fall, so it's tough for me to come on. Right now, I'm on a roll. I've made it a couple weeks in a row, and then my anniversary Saturday, so the score is 34. I won't be on next week. My wife will be out of state. She sees me on this podcast. She's probably going to stick a foot in my rear end.
Yeah.
They run the show. They run the show. How long you been married, Larry?
27 years. 27.
7, and you, Wayne?
26.
34. So we all know what it's like. JJ don't know what it's like yet. He's in puppy years, man. He's just getting his nose wet and his tongue all wet. And I'm telling you, any man that thinks he runs a show is an absolute imbecile, because the women run it. Do they not?
Not the backyard, they don't.
Not the backyard. Well, the backyard, yeah, because we're mowing it and they're telling us to mow it. So we still ain't running it.
No,
right? Isn't that right, Larry?
That backyard is my man cave.
Yeah, that's
my
true.
man cave is tell me what room the hell to go in, and I'll just do it.
Right.
That's true.
And Larry, they run the show.
We know it all too well. We absolutely know it too well.
Gosh, no, man. So baseball, the races are coming. We got the trade deadline coming. I think the Braves are going to be sellers. I don't see them being buyers. I pray to God the Tigers go buy some bats. Everybody's talking about the bullpen and this and that. Yeah, they could use an arm, but man, they need dudes that can hit the ball. They were 20 over 500 with that great start. They played 2 under since, and they've lost 9 out of 10. So, what they did last year, they came back. They had a 1% chance of making it. We all know they made it. They beat Houston in the first round. A.J. Hinch beat his former team, right? So they get in that second round. They could have beat Cleveland. They didn't. So what do? They start off like gangbusters. Now they're playing like they did at the beginning of last year. They've flipped the script the other way, and they got Toronto coming into town. Man, we all know Toronto is a pain. They can hit. They're led by Vladdy Guerrero. That's a ball club.
No, it is, and the Yankees have got their hands full. That's why this series that they had in Atlanta was so important to them, because they didn't really want to lose any ground to Toronto in the East standings, and Toronto just keeps winning. They just keep winning. They're a fine-tuned machine. The talent that they had, it was young kids that was surrounded by Vladdy Jr. They're starting to come around. So Toronto's doing what they're going to do. I think it's going to be great heading into the pennant races as we get past the trade deadline into when the rosters expand. I think you're going to see a lot of good baseball as we head down the stretch in this season. And I think this postseason is going to be one for the ages. Just it's going to be a lot of good teams with a lot of stars there and a lot of good baseball to be played. So,
And if
looking
anybody
forward
can
to it.
predict this, I want to know and take the four of us to Vegas so we can bet, because I honestly think it's as wide open as ever. I know the Dodgers have sent a gazillion dollars along with the Mets, and it means absolutely zero when it comes to the playoffs, because there is no outstanding team in Major League Baseball. There's a bunch of good ones. There's not even a great team. Not a great team. They're just all good. Milwaukee has the best record in Major League Baseball. So I couldn't pick a winner if
TC, it comes down to pitching.
Yeah,
It
who's
comes
got
down to
it?
pitching. And
Detroit
the
has
teams.
Skubal.
Well, they got one, and we can go down. Look, Pittsburgh's got schemes, so they need what you learned from last season is you got to have four, if not five, come playoff time that are going to be innings eaters. They've got to get you six, and you got to have a bullpen that can do one inning apiece. You got to have at least three people in the bullpen that can get you one inning on any given night. And unfortunately, that's the remedy now, or the recipe for winning in the playoffs. And now that Shohei is getting back to pitching again, the Dodgers pitching staff is going. It's going to be something to. It's going to be something to work
Clayton
with.
Kershaw with Mr. 12-6.
You see, so there's several people that you can look forward to, but it's going to all come down to pitching, which is why Milwaukee is doing as well as they are. When you got somebody in your bullpen that can come out, heck, you got a starter and a bullpen guy that can top 100 or more miles an hour on off-speed pitches, that's a problem.
Huge problem. And, Detroit's got Casey Mize, and then they had I can't remember. Where's number 9 for Detroit? I'm getting a brain fart, but he's struggling right now. But he pitched for the Dodgers last year in the World Series. Who am I thinking of? He's from Los Angeles native.
It ain't
He
Urias,
was
is
with
it?
Detroit. He was with Detroit. They traded with the Dodgers at the deadline, and then he won a series with the Dodgers, and then he came back to Detroit in free agency. I can't think of his name. It's killing me. But anyway, I had Jacob deGrom on my mind because he's staying healthy, Wayne. Knock on wood. He continues to stay healthy. Texas would be dangerous in a short series.
Yeah.
Is it
It
Tommy
would be
Conley?
dangerous. Huh?
Conley, pitcher?
No, it's
Tommy?
if you looked at Detroit's Jack
Flaherty?
not Jack Flaherty. It's but it is Flaherty. I can't remember the first name now. I got a brain fart. For Detroit. He's struggling. He struggled today. The Pirates banged him all over. Well, no, he struggled yesterday. Detroit threw a kid out there in his Major League debut, and he got bombed by the Pirates.
This is Jack.
Flaherty.
It is Jack Flaherty. He pitched on Monday against the Pirates.
Rip.
Yep.
Detroit has done awful the last 10 days. They look like the Braves. You know what? That game, that Yankee series, when the Yanks coming down and took 2 out of 3, it reminded me of Game 4 of the '96 World Series. Yanks won the first 2, or Braves won the first 2 in New York. Joe Torre said, "It's my town." They won the next 3 in Atlanta. Game 6 back in New York. Mark Lemke fouled out and to the third baseman. That was that. But in Game 4, the Yanks were up 6-0 and lost 8-6. The Yanks were actually the series when it came here. Atlanta won the first game. Yanks won the next 2. The middle game, the Yanks were down. Hit a grand slam home run by Trent Grisham. They made an 8. They were down 8. 7-1 they were down. Tied it 12-9. Took the lead 12-8 on Grisham's grand slam. Something about the Yankees playing in Atlanta. And if you notice that crowd, Larry, in Atlanta, it was pro New York. It looked like Bronx South when Trent Grisham hit that grand slam. Did we lose Larry?
Yeah, it looks like he may have dropped out there.
He may have dropped out. But anyway, it looked like Bronx South. So we'll see if he comes back. If not, we need to get going. Wayne, you got any final thoughts? Anything closing out? Close this
Well,
puppy.
just congratulations to Denny Hamlin for winning his 58th race NASCAR, which puts him 11th overall. And I think he's got 3 more races to win before he gets in the top 10 for NASCAR overall victories of all time. So that's pretty big accomplishment.
I'd say so. And my congratulations. I'm going to go right back to the beginning of the show. How can Sonny Hostin be so stupid and still have a job on The View saying she argued that CBS firing Stephen Colbert is dismantling our Constitution?
Well,
the only thing that's been dismantled is her brain by saying
Well, for a while there, the Three Stooges were plumbers, so I guess anything's possible.
Well, you see the Five Stooges on The View every day. I mean, you just can't be this stupid. How do you? I don't understand it. She's arguing CBS lost 40 to 50 million a year. Not only did they get rid of Colbert, they're getting rid of the Late Show. They're not going to have anybody else.
Well, that rent on that what was it? Ed Sullivan Theater, I think, was super high too. And so by dropping the show, they're going to get out of that rent.
Computer decided to go on an update on its own and say goodbye. So he's gone for the night. That's okay. We completely understand. You know, it's unbelievable how, I mean, really? No, CBS lost money. They made a business decision. And I don't know how anybody would watch The View and sit there. You got to be kidding me. I'm not a political person. I really don't give a rat's bit. But dumb is dumb, and I had to point it out. And she would be my dumbbell of the week.
Okay.
I mean, I usually have a sports dumbbell I can do, and there are a lot of them. I mean, Georgia had a recruit that got caught speeding. Georgia already has enough problems with a program with drivers speeding. A recruit got caught speeding. I think Kirby Smart may pass on this recruit.
Yeah, he wasn't pulled over on Highway 16, was he?
Don't know.
Well, that's where they got me at.
Ohio. Oh, yeah. Well, that's away from Athens, but that is a racetrack.
Yeah.
From Macon to Savannah.
Right.
Racetrack. But I warned you.
You did.
Said, do not speed on I-16. You can speed anywhere else in the state of Georgia.
I don't know.
I-16, you'll get caught.
Well, it's still pretty rough out there. I think everybody's trying to step up their game to be more like the Arkansas State Police.
Gosh. Well, all I remember is the movie Smokey and the Bandit. Every state police was rough on rest in peace, Burt Reynolds, trying to get back from where they were to Atlanta, seeing those old school cop cars. That was such a cool movie. Sheriff Buford T. Justice.
All right. Well, are you ready to wrap the show up and get on with our week?
I am. I'm getting ready to get on with my anniversary. I'm going to read up on some college football. We'll bring on some college football guests. I'll be back a week from Wednesday.
Okay.
JG, I'll be back next week. I want to thank David Walker of the Rebel Walk for joining us. And yes, he just said, thanks for having me on. No, thank you for coming on. And yes, Cohen is a real pro. I will make sure you have each other's phone numbers so you can meet each other. I want to thank Dave Cohen for coming on. Thank him for getting me the Georgia State play-by-play job. Men's and women's basketball, that season's coming up. After SIAC football, then I'll go do the ACHA College Hockey Nationals in St. Louis in March. Always look forward to that event and looking forward to the season. College football's around the corner. Pro football's around the corner.
Yep.
The Falcons. We should have got a Falcons topic, and I had a really good one tonight, but I'll save it. It's still is still good.
All right.
I'm Todd. Have a great evening. Enjoy the games, everybody.
All right.
Thanks for watching another edition of ATL Prime Sports. Good night.